Hey there. Imagine a world where one man's ambition reshapes entire continents, where a single leader's vision creates ripples that change history forever. What if I told you that over 800 years ago, a warrior from the vast steppes of Mongolia did just that? Welcome to the incredible story of Genghis Khan, a name that strikes both awe and fear into the hearts of millions. This isn't just a tale of conquest. It's a journey into how one man's relentless drive transformed Asia and left a mark on the world that we still feel today. Buckle up, because we're diving into a story of power, strategy, and legacy that will blow your mind. Let's set the stage. It's the early 13th century, and the world is a fragmented place. In Asia, empires and tribes are scattered across vast lands, often at odds with each other. There's no unity, no single force to bring them together. Enter Temujin, a young boy born around 1162 in the harsh, windswept steppes of Mongolia. Life wasn't easy for him. His father, a tribal leader, was poisoned by enemies when Temujin was just a child. Left with nothing, his family was abandoned by their own tribe, forced to survive on their own in a brutal world. But this hardship forged something unbreakable in Temujin, a burning desire to rise above his circumstances and unite his people. Growing up, Temujin faced betrayal, captivity, and loss. He was even enslaved at one point, but he never gave up. Through sheer grit and determination, he escaped and began to build alliances. He married Bort, a strong woman who became his lifelong partner, and together they faced countless challenges. Temujin wasn't just a fighter. He was a strategist. He knew that to survive in the steppes, he needed loyalty and strength. He started uniting smaller Mongol tribes under his leadership, not just through force, but by offering protection and a vision of a greater future. By 1206, after years of battles and clever diplomacy, Temujin had done the impossible. He united the Mongols under one banner and was declared Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler. Now, uniting the Mongols was just the beginning. Genghis Khan had bigger dreams. He looked beyond the steppes and saw a world ripe for conquest. His first major target was the Jin dynasty in northern China. At the time, the Jin were a powerful empire with massive armies and fortified cities. Attacking them seemed like madness. But Genghis wasn't your average leader. He had an army unlike any other. The Mongols were nomadic warriors, masters of horseback, riding, and archery. They could move faster than anyone, strike hard, and disappear before their enemies could even react. Genghis also understood the power of fear. He used psychological tactics, spreading terror to weaken his opponents before even stepping onto the battlefield. In 1211, Genghis launched his campaign against the Jin. His forces swept through their lands, capturing cities and forcing the Jin to retreat. By 1215, after a brutal siege, he took their capital, Zhongdu, which is modern-day Beijing. The wealth of the Jin was staggering. Gold, silk, and treasures worth millions of dollars in today's terms poured into Mongol hands. But Genghis didn't just plunder. He learned. He saw how settled empires worked, how they built cities and managed trade. He began to adapt, incorporating new ideas into his own empire. This wasn't just about destruction. It was about building something bigger. While the conquest of the Jin was a massive victory, Genghis Khan's ambitions didn't stop there. He turned his gaze westward, toward the Khwarezmian Empire, a powerful state in Central Asia that controlled key trade routes of the Silk Road. The Silk Road was the economic lifeline of the ancient world, a network of paths connecting east and west, carrying goods worth billions of dollars over centuries. Genghis wanted a piece of that action. At first, he tried diplomacy, sending envoys to establish trade relations, but the Khwarezmian Shah, a proud and arrogant ruler, made a fatal mistake. He insulted Genghis by executing his envoys and seizing their goods. Big mistake. Genghis Khan didn't take kindly to disrespect. In 1219, Genghis unleashed his fury on the Khwarezmian Empire. His army, now battle-hardened and numbering in the hundreds of thousands, moved with terrifying speed. They destroyed entire cities, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. The Shah's forces were no match for the Mongols' tactics. Genghis split his army into smaller, fast-moving units, confusing and outmaneuvering his enemies at every turn. Within 2 years, the Khwarezmian Empire was gone, its lands absorbed into the growing Mongol Empire. The message was clear: cross Genghis Khan, and you'll pay the ultimate price. But let's not paint Genghis as just a ruthless conqueror. Yes, his campaigns were brutal, and millions lost their lives under his rule. Some historians estimate that up to 40 million people, about 10% of the world's population at the time, died as a result of his conquests. That's a staggering number, equivalent to hundreds of billions of dollars in economic loss, if we think about the impact on trade and societies. Yet, there's another side to this story. Genghis Khan wasn't just about destruction. He was a visionary. He created the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. At its peak, his empire covered over 9 million square miles and included more than 100 million people. That's a scale hard to even imagine. How did he manage to hold such a vast empire together? It wasn't just through fear. Genghis was a brilliant administrator. He introduced a written language for the Mongols, based on the Uyghur script, to keep records and communicate across his lands. He established a postal system called the Yam, a network of relay stations that allowed messages to travel thousands of miles in just days. Riders would carry news and orders, switching horses at each station to maintain speed. This system was so efficient that it became a model for later empires. Imagine a message traveling faster than anyone thought possible in the 13th century. Genghis made that happen. He also revolutionized trade. Under his rule, the Silk Road became safer than ever before. Merchants could travel across Asia without fear of bandits, knowing the Mongols protected the routes. Goods like silk, spices, and gold, worth billions of dollars over time, flowed freely, connecting cultures and economies. Genghis even encouraged religious tolerance, allowing people of different faiths to live and worship as they pleased, as long as they paid tribute and remained loyal. This wasn't common in a world often torn apart by religious conflict. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and others coexisted under his rule, creating a melting pot of ideas and traditions. Genghis Khan also had a unique way of governing. He didn't trust nobility or inherited power. Instead, he promoted people based on merit. If you were loyal and skilled, you could rise to the top, no matter where you came from. This was revolutionary at the time. Many of his top generals and advisors were former enemies who had proven their worth. He broke down tribal barriers, mixing different groups together to prevent rebellion and build unity. His laws, known as the Yasa, were strict but fair, applying to everyone, even his own family. Stealing, lying, or betraying trust could mean death, but following the rules meant protection and opportunity. Now, let's talk about his military genius. The Mongol army, under Genghis Khan, was a force of nature. They weren't just warriors. They were innovators. Each soldier carried everything they needed: food, weapons, even spare horses. They could live off the land, eating dried meat or drinking mare's milk when supplies ran low. Their bows, made from wood and horn, could shoot arrows over 300 yards with deadly accuracy, even while riding at full speed. Genghis trained his men to fight as a unit, using feints and fake retreats to lure enemies into traps. He studied his opponents, learning their weaknesses and turning them into advantages. This wasn't just brute force. It was strategy at its finest. Genghis also understood the power of intelligence. He sent spies ahead of his armies to gather information on enemy strengths and terrain. He used propaganda, spreading rumors of his invincibility to break his enemies' will before a battle even started. One famous story tells of how he ordered his soldiers to light extra campfires at night, making his army seem much larger than it was. Enemies would surrender without a fight, terrified of facing an unstoppable horde. This kind of psychological warfare was way ahead of its time. By the time Genghis Khan died in 1227, likely from illness or injury during a campaign, his empire was unlike anything the world had ever seen. He was around 65 years old, a remarkable age for a man who lived such a hard life. His final resting place remains a mystery. Some say he was buried in a secret location in Mongolia, with no marker to honor his wish for privacy, even in death. But his legacy didn't end with him. His sons and grandsons continued his work, expanding the empire even further. Under leaders like Kublai Khan, the Mongols would go on to rule China and establish the Yuan dynasty, influencing culture and politics for centuries. So, what did Genghis Khan really change? He didn't just conquer lands. He reshaped the destiny of Asia. His empire connected east and west like never before, paving the way for cultural exchange and economic growth. Ideas, technologies, and even diseases like the Black Death spread across continents because of the networks he created. Some historians argue that the Mongol Empire laid the groundwork for the modern world, bringing distant regions into contact and sparking trade that would eventually lead to globalization. The wealth generated from his conquests, worth trillions of dollars in today's money when adjusted for inflation, fueled economies and changed power dynamics. But his impact wasn't just economic or political. Genghis Khan's story is a testament to what one person can achieve with vision and determination. Born into poverty and hardship, he rose to become one of the most powerful men in history. He wasn't perfect. Far from it. His conquests brought unimaginable suffering to millions. And his name is still synonymous with destruction in many parts of the world. Yet, he also built a system that outlasted him. A legacy of unity and innovation that shaped the future. Think about this. Nearly 1 in 200 men alive today may carry Genghis Khan's DNA, according to genetic studies. That's millions of people potentially descended from him. A staggering reminder of his influence. His life shows us the dual nature of power, how it can destroy, but also create. He turned a scattered group of nomads into a world-shaking force, proving that even in the harshest conditions, ambition can change everything. As we wrap up this incredible journey, let's reflect on what Genghis Khan teaches us. History isn't just about dates and battles. It's about people who dare to dream big, who challenge the impossible, and who leave a mark that time can't erase. Genghis Khan did that, and more. His story is a roller coaster of triumph and tragedy, a reminder that even the most unlikely beginnings can lead to world-changing endings. So, the next time you hear his name, don't just think of a conqueror. Think of a man who bent history to his will and changed the fate of Asia forever. And what do you think? How does one person's vision shape the world? Let's keep this conversation going, because history is full of stories waiting to inspire us.